Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Tom's Hardware Show. I'm Avram Pilch, the Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, and I'm here today with Andrew Friedman and Paul Alcorn, Senior Editors for Tom's Hardware, and we're going to talk about some of the most interesting things in tech this week. Wow, it was a bad week for Intel. Paul, what is going on with Team Blue?
Well, Intel continues to be plagued by their long-running shortages that they've had, and their CEO went on an investor talk this week and said that it was in fact due to the increased core counts that they have had to create for their processors in order to compete with AMD. So not only is AMD stealing market share from them with faster processors now, but because they've forced Intel to add cores, they've actually forced them into a shortage situation.
So, do you think that the public really wants those extra cores, or do you think it's more marketing hype than necessity?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of work you're doing. There's definitely a need for more cores for people who tend to do harder types of workloads like game streaming, editing, any type of prosumer type application. So there is a use there. But the good thing about AMD's architecture is that it scales. So even the processors that have fewer cores are still very powerful. So I mean, there's a need, but it's kind of limited to just certain individuals.
Wow. So it looks like Intel is losing out on a fair amount of opportunities. What are some of the areas besides just selling desktop chips where you're seeing Intel fall down?
Well, on the low end of the laptop market, they're definitely not able to satisfy demand for their chips. So the prices of all of their low end chips have went up tremendously, especially even on the desktop down in like Core i3 and Pentium territory. And the bad thing for Intel there is they're not as competitive against AMD, if at all, in those segments, especially against AMD's APUs with their integrated graphics. So the places where Intel is feeling the most pain are actually some of the areas where AMD is most competitive.
So Andrew, you've tested a bunch of laptops that have come with AMD chips lately. How do you find the quality, and what types of laptops have you seen it in?
Sure. So the interesting thing about the laptops, the AMD chips that we've seen versus the ones where Paul suggests they have a competitive advantage are that we're seeing them in gaming laptops or in more high performance laptops like the Surface Laptop 3 15-inch, where they're having those types of competitive advantages are sort of what you might see when you walk into a Best Buy, where like the laptop is sort of like no names on the label, where they're lower powered. On the higher tier, they have an issue competing with Intel right now because they haven't ported their latest Zen architecture over to mobile just yet. That's going to come in the Renoir release whenever that is. So right now, when we see things like the Surface Laptop 3, it was a bit of a disappointment because it couldn't compete with the Intel side when it had the equivalent in Ice Lake. It's a similar thing we're seeing with gaming laptops, where it's good enough for gaming, but it's never showing quite the CPU performance that the Intel one does. On the lower end, there might be a little more competition there.
Yeah, no doubt. AMD still way behind in the laptop space, but they're
Right.
managing to pick up some share just because they're able to fulfill orders, and sometimes they're cheaper.
Right.
Although sometimes, as we saw in the case of the Surface Laptop 3, they weren't
Yeah.
actually any cheaper, but they didn't perform as well,
Right.
which
Now
is not
there
a good combination.
Right. Now there have been some big design wins for AMD. Now is that because of the shortage or because partners are interested? I couldn't tell you exactly. There's the Surface Laptop 3, there was the AMD Zephyrus GA502, which was their first Zephyrus with a Ryzen chip. And I mean, the question is, how long do Intel's shortages go on for, and how fast can AMD get Renoir out the door? Because that'll mean real competition where Intel has dominated, which has been the high-end mobile space.
Do you think this advantage is going to do anything for AMD's graphics progress? Because in the laptop space, I think we're seeing a lot of laptops that have AMD CPUs but still NVIDIA for the GPU.
I mean, that's a darn good question. I guess is when I think that's a That's honestly sort of beyond me. I mean, we'll have to see next generation. I mean, right now we're starting to see, we've only seen the MSI Alpha thus far with the latest AMD graphics, and it was a little bit behind NVIDIA, but that does allow for lower price point laptops, so there is a market for that. But I think the Intel AMD comparison on CPU on one side and AMD NVIDIA comparison on the GPU are two completely different fights.
Yeah, no doubt. And NVIDIA doesn't seem to be having any problems fulfilling orders like Intel is. Paul, what does Intel need to do to get back on track?
Well, right now, the only thing that they can do is first of all, get 10 nanometer fixed, because a lot of their new equipment and a lot of their new fabs are dedicated to 10 nanometer production. So they've kind of taken a lot of their investments and put it into 10 nanometers. So that's going to be key for them to actually begin shipping that in high volume. I mean, they are shipping it right now, but whether or not that's high volume remains up for debate. And then in addition, they're just going to have to expand their 14 nanometer manufacturing. And they have said that they're going to pour $1.5 billion more into that over the next year and increase their production by 25%. But most of that production increase hinges on their 10 nanometer production. So the answer is simple. They have to fix 10 nanometer. They have to get it shipping in volume.
When you say shipping in volume, Paul, do you mean getting more of Ice Lake out there, or do you forecast that we're waiting for Tiger Lake at this point?
It could be probably a little bit of both. You won't see Ice Lake come to the desktop. I think in the desktop is where they really need to gain some more production capacity. It is there because those are your higher core count chips. So it would be more of Tiger Lake that would make the impact that would help them there on 10 nanometer.
It seems like on the mobile side, though, Ice Lake and the few 10 nanometer laptops we reviewed, how do you feel about the performance?
In general, it's been good. It's what we've seen in Comet Lake. The 14 nanometer alternative, which is also 10th gen, has often been faster. We're pretty sure they can be producing more of those. So the performance is good if you just need sort of like a mid to high range laptop that can get most of your average tasks done. It's going to be fine. It definitely does better in the graphics department than Comet Lake does, because it has Intel Iris Plus on board. But I think we're still waiting to see those real gains, hopefully in 11th gen or whatever they decide to call Tiger Lake.
So, I mean, if you're a consumer right now and you're shopping for a laptop, does it really matter? Should 10 nanometer really matter to you?
It's tough, because we've seen the messaging from OEMs and from Intel itself to be, well, if you prefer graphics performance, go for Ice Lake. It's got Intel Iris Plus. And if you prefer productivity, then go for 14 nanometer Comet Lake. And the issue is that some laptops come with one and some laptops come with the other, and if you just prefer a design, that's a real issue. So it's a confusing marketplace right now, and I'm honestly it's hard to give advice about it. I would say go for the design you like, as long as you're making sure that you have performance that really matches your workflow.
So what I'm going to say about that is, 10 nanometer is proven not to be a distinct advantage on laptops. What you're saying is you can get it or not get it, and it doesn't really. And the only difference is how your integrated graphics perform, which for people who are buying a non-gaming laptop, which is all you can get Ice Lake in right now, you probably not as concerned about the graphics, particularly if you're getting a thin and light notebook. So I think whether you have Comet Lake or whether you have Ice Lake in your laptop right now, Intel's not really shown anyone significant performance gains from getting the 10 nanometer. So there's not a lot for consumers to be excited about. I think we're all waiting to see performance and power gains, but what they've shown so far, it seems to be 10 nanometer just to say that we did 10 nanometer without really giving you great benefits from that. Do you guys agree?
And some of that stems from the fact that their clock speeds are lower. So as processors shrink, in the past, when we shrunk from 22 nanometer to 14 nanometer, clock speeds actually became faster. But now the fabs are grappling with shrinking to even smaller nodes, so the clock speeds go down. AMD is pretty lucky that TSMC was able to keep clock speeds relatively consistent with the 7 nanometer, but Intel, with their 10 nanometer, they can't hit the clock speeds that they used to, and that's not a problem that's going to be solved anytime soon. Even any future Ice Lake products are not going to solve that because they're based on the same the same node. So the performance just isn't there.
The one thing I will say from Intel's 10th generation of chips, and here Ice Lake and Comet Lake as a whole, is at least we got sort of Project Athena out of it, which is pushing more endurance, right? It's pushing certain levels of performance and temperatures. So while we might not be getting the power out of it, we know Intel's pushing OEMs for certain other quality of life benefits. That's not going to improve the performance of your chips, but it's something.
See, that's what I always say about new Intel chips. A new wave of Intel chips leads to a new release schedule for laptops and desktops. Right. And so if you're in the market for a pre-built computer, you may get a new design, you may get other new features that are concurrent, like Wi-Fi 6. And they don't necessarily have a lot to do with the qualities of the chip, but as long as they're refreshing anyway, you're going to get these other benefits. So I guess that's why we see an new Intel mobile chip every year without fail. Otherwise, they couldn't have back to school shopping season, right? Speaking of next year's shopping season, it looks like there's going to be a really compelling option out there in the new Xbox. Andrew, you've been doing some research on this.
Right. So Xbox, it surprise dropped at the Game Awards more information about what was previously known as Project Scarlet, now the Xbox Series X, which try saying that 3 times fast. And it very much looks like a computer. It kind of looks like the Corsair One desktop, except sort of cleaner, and it has that black rectangle aesthetic and can be laid on its side, which you really probably wouldn't do with the Corsair One. So a few interesting things about it, and I got some notes because we got lots of numbers here. Let's go straight to the technical stuff. So we've known for a while that both Microsoft and Sony are going to be using their AMD, very similar apparently, AMD products in their consoles next year. So we're going to see a Zen 2 architecture CPU, and we're going to get next-gen RDNA graphics card. And specifically, they're talking about hardware-accelerated ray tracing, which is exciting because we haven't seen AMD do that yet, so that sort of gives us an eye into where their PC graphics cards might go as soon as next year. They're promising 4K at 60 frames per second with the possibility of up to 120 frames per second, so I guess they're going to do that on a per-game basis. They're talking about support for a variable refresh rate and 8K capability. I don't suspect every game will play great at 8K. It's possible that some might upsample. It's possible that they'll definitely want to promise it for movies or films, so I'm a little skeptical there. Microsoft has a special variable rate shading technology that they're promising, and they're finally moving to SSDs by default, so that might eliminate load times. Otherwise, there is also a new controller. It looks very much like the old controller. It appears to be a little flatter. It has a share button like the PlayStation does, and it'll be compatible with your Windows 10 PC or your old Xbox One as well as this one. And it will launch with a Halo Infinite, and at the Game Awards we saw footage from Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. It was all in-engine, or so they say, and it really did look fantastic. It was not gameplay. It was, cinematic, but it looked really nice, and it was really a nice teaser that I saw we're getting a lot of people really hyped. So I think the design is really a win, but we're really gonna have to wait and see what AMD releases that will actually power it.
So Paul, do you think that this is going to that getting this powerful of a console is going to have a negative impact on PC gaming? I mean, we don't know how much this is going to cost, but I'm going to hedge a bet that it's going to be significantly cheaper than even a mid-range gaming PC.
I don't think so. I think with consoles are more threatened by Stadia, definitely, than anything. Just desktop PCs, they're upgradable, and the pace of innovation. Look at how long the Xbox the last version of the Xbox, PS4, how long they've been out? Years. I mean, it's forever. If you think about how far forward graphics technology on the desktop has went since the Xbox was originally released, then you can see that these long life cycles of game consoles, while you might see maybe some minor impact at within the first year, as time wears on, if they're long life with these type of components, then CPUs and GPUs continue to move forward much faster than console technology. One good note for AMD is typically consoles haven't made them much money. Semi-custom business is almost a volume play. They make very little money from it. But moving forward to newer chips, 7 nanometer.
So another win for Team Red.
An interesting thing about comparing it to the desktop PC space is that there have been rumors and reports that what was formerly known as Project Scarlet, now Xbox Series X, is that there would be multiple configurations of the Xbox, right? So that there would be a high-end PC called, or codenamed Anaconda, and then a lower-end one called Lockhart that might be more affordable and less powerful. So if we have this idea that there are a series of consoles and that they could be upgraded the way the Xbox One was, where you had Xbox One, then Xbox One S, and then Xbox One X was more powerful, they could in theory keep releasing these under this Xbox banner now, under an Xbox Series, and say, okay, well, you want to upgrade your specs, we can sell you another box. So in that way, it sounds like it's much more like a PC. The other way that you could sort of compare them, and Microsoft, to its credit, has been bringing Windows PC gaming and Xbox much more together. Xbox Game Bar, is labeled Xbox for a reason. Xbox Game Pass is available on both PC and on Xbox One, and will be available on the Xbox Series X. So if you own a PC and it's powerful enough for your liking, you can play all those same games through that subscription that you could already get on the Xbox. But if you like having the couch gaming experience, then you could have both and share the same games through that. So I think Microsoft's doing some stuff that's really smart here in terms of making sure that PC gamers and their console work well together. Now, in the terms of Stadia, which Paul was talking about earlier, they are working on Project xCloud, and in their official announcement, they hinted that there's going to be some unique hardware and software to make streaming to other devices from the Xbox Series X a possibility. They didn't go into a lot of detail, but Project xCloud could help make the Xbox a bit of a threat.
No doubt. Well, as we all know, it's we're recording this in December, and a bit before Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. So what are you guys shopping for for your PCs?
Well, not the Xbox Series X right now, because that's coming out this time next year. There are a few things, it's funny, we've been looking at sales so much for our readers, I've almost forgot to look for myself. The few things I'm definitely looking at is storage, which, our managing editor, Matt Safford, is addicted to storage. But I have a lot of SATA storage and not so much NVMe storage, so I think for me, that's what I'll keep a lookout from now through the rest of the year.
Yeah, we've seen some really incredible deals on SSDs. This is a great time to shop for SSDs, particularly if you want to just add more storage by getting like a 1 terabyte SATA drive. We've seen like Samsung models for like $87.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the higher performance front, with like M2 NVMe drives, our favorite drive of the moment, the ADATA XPG SX8200 Pro. Say that 3 times fast. Was on sale on Cyber Monday for as little as $106. At this moment that we're talking, it's gone back up to like 140 something. But there are sales on similar products every day. Paul, what are you shopping for?
Well, I have a lot of hardware, so I'm not really looking for anything for myself. I am looking for a new case for my son. He likes RGB stuff, so we're gonna build him a new case and maybe some colored fans. See if there are any good deals out there on that, and a micro SD card. I will be looking
all the RGBs
for my phone. So other than that,
the RGBs,
not much.
I'm looking to help my brother get into building, so there are a few key components he's still looking for, like a power supply, which and a case. And we've seen this time of year tends to be a time they're clearing out some inventory, especially for whatever they might be announcing next year. So it's a good time to be on the lookout.
Yeah, like Paul, I'm also looking to do a build with my son, if for no other reason than that he get the experience of doing a build for himself. So I too need to find a case, power supply, fans, most of all, to make that happen. Obviously, there are some great deals on that. There are also some great deals on cheap monitors. The other day we had one we had found one on Amazon that was a AOC monitor, 1080p, for $69. That went away, but if you are building a PC for a family member and they just need a monitor and you're not picky about the color quality per se or having it have a super high refresh rate, you can get a monitor for well under $100 now, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think we saw a few the other day go as low as 70, which was kind of for full HD 60 hertz. So that's pretty impressive.
And under 200, even under 150 for a high refresh rate monitor. I mean, I saw an MSI the other day that was about 140 for 144 hertz, 24-inch screen. So this is a great time to get monitors. It's a great time to get storage. It's a pretty okay time to get RAM. And PCs and laptops also decent, although not as exciting.
Yeah, not as exciting. There are some sales on laptops. A lot of them were bigger between the Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday timeframe. They've kind of tapered off on that side. Desktops you might see from some of the boutiques, but less so from the name brands.
I think as we get closer to December 25th, we're going to see maybe companies try to clear out inventory, and then after Christmas sales might provide opportunities for people to buy a system. But I just want to say, folks, that we are covering the deals every day on Tom's Hardware, so we're out there finding them for you.
We're trying to help you avoid the number one rule of hardware, which is as soon as you buy it, 2 weeks later it goes on sale. So get it at the best price when you can.
Yeah, exactly. So
that rule's still going to apply. Sorry, everybody.
So thank you guys for Tom's Hardware. I'm Avram Pilch.
I'm Andrew Friedman. Yes, you are.
See you next time on the Tom's Hardware Show.
Bye, everybody.
And I'm Paul Alcorn.